Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak and double honors to all elders and apostles of GMS, a great millstone who teach and rule well. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to the 144,000 and those that are scattered abroad. Shalom, shalom. All right, this is Brother Nabala here with another lesson. And this is an article, all right, that, I came across from Wired, right? And I've also seen it, on multiple platforms. All right. And it says here China approves the first brain chips for sale and has a plan to dominate the industry. All right. Um, so it says here, it says, while the United States and Europe are moving cautiously forward with clinical trials, China is racing towards commercializing of the brain implants. All right. So this is what China's doing, man. China is trying to pretty much advertise, all right, these brain implants, all right. And so you know um this is eventually, all right, it's going to come here to Babylon the Great, or this eventually is going to come here. This is going to be their plan, all right, is to bring in that RFID chip, all right, that microchip, all right. That's what they're gonna try to do, all right, according to Revelations 13, which we'll get, all right. So that's why you see all these things taking place, all right. You're seeing the collapse of this economy. All right, this economy, is gonna is eventually gonna collapse. All right, it could happen, at any moment. All right, it could happen at any moment, man. This economy could collapse at any moment. So, you know, Esau Edom, man, he has, a plan. All right, he has a plan, and his plan, all right, is to get the whole world shipped. All right, that's his plan. All right, and he's gonna put the people's back against the wall. All right, to take this ship, but Yahweh Shai Shai's elect aren't gonna take this ship. All right, it says here. It says China made history by becoming the first nation to approve a commercially available brain chip to treat disability NEO. The implant developed by Neuracle Medical Technology translates the thoughts of a person with paralysis into movements of a assistive robotic hand. All right. It says after 18 months of testing that proves its safety, China's National Medical Products Administration authorized the implant for people aged 19 to 60 with paralysis caused by neck and spinal cord injuries. It says that prevents them from moving their limbs. All right. So these are just some of the miracles, all right, that Esau Edom is going to come with, all right, when they bring forth this ship here in Babylon the Great, all right, as we could read in Second Thessalonians, which I'm gonna get here. Let's get the book of Second Thessalonians. All right, that's what's going to take. That's what's going to take place. Second Thessalonians 2 is a verse 9. Um, um, we can start at verse 3. The Second Thessalonians 2:3. It says, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for the day shall not come except they're coming to follow the way first." All right, now this is referred, all right, to the Israelites, okay, falling away from their identity, falling away from their power, falling away from their heritage, all right. But this is twofold, all right. You could put this towards Esau Edom as well. It says, except there come a falling away first, and that the man of sin be revealed, and the son of perdition. All right, and that the man of sin are Esau Edom, all right, the son of perdition, all right, the wicked, according to the book of Malachi, all right, which we'll get here. Let's get the book of Malachi, all right, just to prove who the wicked is, all right. Um, what is it, Malachi 2? No, Salakia. Or Micah, Salakia. It's Micah, Salakia. Micah 4. No, Salakia. What is it? Is it Micah or Malachi? Um, I know it's either Micah or Malachi. What is it? Salakia. Just to prove that point. All right, who the son of perdition is? All right, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. All right, the border of wickedness. um, Salakia, Salakia. I gotta look this up. Damn. Um, border of wickedness. What is it? Malachi 1 and 4. Salakia. Malachi 1 and 4 was right. All right, so let's get the book of Malachi 1 and verse 4. And it says here, whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, meaning they're troubled, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus said Yahweh Shah of hosts. It says, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom Yahweh Shah had indignation forever. All right, so these devils are the border of wickedness. All right, that's the son of perdition. All right, the son of destruction. All right, according to the book of Second Thessalonians. All right, so let's go back to Second Thessalonians, and it says, "Who exposes and exalts himself above all that is called God." It says, or that is worshipped, so that he, as God, sitteth in the temple of Yahweh Shemel Shai, showing himself that he is God. All right, that's Esau Edom's. That's what he does, man. Esau Edom, he portrays himself as God. All right, by using by using miracles. All right, miracles and you know like just through his miracles and his sciences. All right, that's Esau Edom. All right, he tries to play as God. It says, "Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things, and now ye know what withholdeth that he may be revealed in this time." Because Esau Edom is being revealed in this time, man. All right, this devil is being revealed. All right, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai and through his prophets. All right. What is this the scriptures say? I believe it's in the book of Amos. How are the things of roughly paraphrasing of Edom searched out? All right, through his prophets. All right, the scriptures also tell you that the scriptures also tell you that his nakedness and his shame should be revealed. All right, it says, "For the mystery of iniquity doth already work; only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way." It says, "And then shall the wicked be revealed, whom Yahweh Shemashai shall consume with the spit of his mouth and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming." All right, because ultimately, Yahweh Shemashai, man, the scripture says that you know, uh, he's not going to meet thee as a man. All right, Yahweh Shemashai is going to come. All right, and bring forth judgment. All right, on these Edomites. All right, on the land of the Chaldeans. It says, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and size and lying wonders. All right, through his technologies, man, through Esau's technologies. All right, and it says, with all deceivable in unrighteousness, it says, in them that perish because they receive not the love of the truth. All right, because you got a lot of people out there, man. 2/3 of our people that are going to reject the truth. All right, so it says that they might be saved, and it says, and for this cause, Yahweh Shai shall send them strong delusions, and they shall believe a lie. All right, because they rejected the truth, man. 2/3 of our people are going to reject this truth. All right, so that's what's going to cause, 2/3 of our people to be destroyed, man, and take this chip. All right, because they rejected the truth, man. They didn't take the counsel of Yahweh Shai. All right, they didn't trust in Yahweh Shai, but yet they trusted. All right, they put the trust in this beast system. All right, scripture says, "Woe to them that put the trust into Egypt." Okay, so let's go back here to this article. right here on Wired. It says after 18 months of testing that proved its safety, China and National Medical Products Administration authorized the implant for people 19 to 60 with paralysis caused by neck and spinal cord injuries that prevent them from moving limbs. It says according to the Nature, the implantant embedded in the skull is about the size of a coin. It says 8 electrodes protrude from the chip that are placed on the brain and in the area that possesses body movement. It says when the user imagines moving their hand, the chip sends a signal to a computer, which then translates it into the action performed by uh, prosthesis. What's prosthesis? Let's look this word up. Prosthesis. Prosthesis, an artificial device, external or implanted, designed to replace a missing body part, improve function, or correct a defect, often injury, disease, or birth control, or birth conditions. All right. So this is an artificial device. All right, that's implanted. All right, it's an artificial device implanted. All right, to help you, pretty much improve the function. It says in practice, it says the Neo allows thought to active and mechanical glove capable of performing basic tasks, picking up objects, manipulating utensils, and moving hygiene items. Sources consult by the magazine indicated that 32 people have already tested the device without reporting any adverse side effects. Although several companies are developing brain implants, the brain computer interface BCIs now have yet received authorizations to market their innovations as treatments. Even advanced projects such as Neuralink have faced side effects that have stalled the regulatory approval. All right. So, they're advertising this already, man. All right. This beast system is here. All right. The mark of the beast is here, man. All right. We're just waiting for it to be implemented, man. We're just waiting for, that false flag, to take place, man. That's why you see all these prophecies taking place. All right. Because they're getting ready to usher in, all right, this MOTB. All right. And ultimately, man, we know this is, the device of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. All right, to weed out, his undesires, man. All right, the scriptures say, man, you know, uh, um, roughly paraphrasing that, his elect, aren't gonna be fooled, man. All right, roughly paraphrasing. I believe it's in the book of Matthew, if I'm not mistaken. All right, um, but there's a few more. Let me see. It says this development comes just months after China issues a policy document that outlines the country's strategy to create a globally competitive BCI industry within 5 years. It says the plan outlines 17 steps that lead the research, development, and applications of these technologies. The Chinese government has always supported disruptive technologies. I think, from the government's point of view, this policy means the BCI technology has already moved from the concept level to product level. It says Phoenix Payne, co-founder of NeuroX's and Gestala, both BCI companies, told Wired earlier this month. The policy document promotes the mass production of non-invasive, non-implantable devices in various forms, forward-mounted and head-mounted and ear-mounted, such as hearing aids, visors, and glasses. It says the visors and glasses. It says also possesses testing these technologies in high risk sectors such as hazard materials handling nuclear energy mining and electricity generations. All right. So pretty much, man, um, this is the exact format that Esau Edom is going to bring forth here to Babylon the Great. Okay. This is exactly what he's going to bring forth. So let's get the book of Revelations, and then we'll get let's get Revelations 13. and 16. Straight to the point. It says, and he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. All right. So, you won't be able to buy or sell without this mark. You won't be able to buy or sell without this. All right. So, Salakia, phone call interrupted my video. All right. But, as I was saying though, you won't be able to, buy or sell. All right. Without taking this mark. All right. And, this is going to be brought upon the whole world. All right. This is going to be brought upon the whole world. All right. And the move that Donald Trump, made, you know, uh, uh, you know, uh, going to war with the Iranians. All right. And, the Iranians closing down the Straits of Hormuz, and, causing oil and gas prices to go up, and, food, to go up, and all these things, man. This is going to have a global effect. All right. This is going to cause a global collapse. All right, where this is going, and ultimately this global collapse is going to, is going to bring in that MOTB globally. All right, so let's get the book of Revelations 3 and 10, and we'll finish off with that. All right, this Revelations 3 and 10 says, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon the whole world, to try them that dwell upon the earth. You see what I'm saying? All right. So, when that MOTB, all right, is being pushed, man, it's going to come upon the whole world. All right. And those that aren't part of Yahweh Shai Shai's fold, all right, those that ain't part of the elect, all right, are gonna take that chip. All right. They're gonna take that chip, man, because they didn't put their trust in Yahweh Shai. All right. So, man, what China is doing, man, is gonna come here to Babylon the Great, man. All right, and that's pretty much, the how can I say it? That's pretty much that same, agenda, or that China is running that same agenda that Esau Edom, wants to put out there, man, to chip the whole world. All right, so he can have, control. All right, so. Man, I just thought I would throw that out there, man. It's always, good to make your MOTB videos, all right, to warn the people, to warn the flock of what's to come. Okay, so, with that being said, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachakwadash, and double honors to our elders and apostles of GMS, the Great Millstone, and teach them real well. All right, this is Brother Nab- This is Brother Nabala. To the next lesson. Shalom, shalom.